Hi, I'm Megan Fitzgerald. I'm here at Koyman Galleries and I'm here to talk about my new series. I started painting a long time ago. I grew up in a really creative family, so it's just always been around me. My mom is a painter, and I remember I would try and steal her pens and pencils because I was so frustrated. She was creating these amazing pieces and I just wanted to be like her. I thought it was amazing. So it's always been a part of me. I spent time in my mom's studio and I fell in love with paint, and I still love paint. I've always been very much a collector. We've spent a lot of time going on nature walks and I would collect things, and I realized that I could also draw to collect things. And so I filled these big sketchbooks full of drawings of different places that I had been, things that I had seen, and that became a really important part of my work. Later on, I went to art school, and throughout all of that time, I took lots of time to just travel and walk and be in places, and that curiosity about the world just stayed a part of it the whole time. When I was traveling, I would always have my little sketchbook and I would sketch things that were happening, and it was a way for me to notice and to be present. So this series is about my new home in Prince Edward County. I spend a lot of time walking along the shores of Lake Ontario. The area that I walk through is called limestone ledges. So there's these big old limestone ledges filled with fossils. It brings out the child in me because I get to search for things and bring rocks home, and they're all lined up on the shelf in my studio. And I sit there and sketch, and I do the same walk almost every single day. So I'm not walking distances anymore. I'm now thinking about walking and repetition through the same site every day. And what has emerged is realizing that these same places always have something new to offer. While I'm on site there, I'll do sketches, I'll think about colors, I'll take lots of reference images, and then I bring all of that back with me into the studio. I spend a lot of time thinking about color, being a painter. I think about not just the color of a place, but also how the colors are working on the canvas, and also how those colors can begin to meld my feelings, my experience of a place with what the local color of a place is actually doing. So if you see in the work behind me, in this tree line, I pull out more colors than you might actually see, because my experience of it is this magical wonder of these beautiful red cedars, and I'm trying to bring out more of those turquoisey elements as an aesthetic approach, but also something that feels more lively to me and was very much how I was experiencing this place on that day. I started painting always with lots of prep work. So I'm drawing, I'm making color studies, I'm mixing lots of paint, I'm just seeing how they work together. And then I generally start with really loose thumbnail sketches. So I decide on the size of painting that I want, and I'll draw a quick thumbnail sketch. And then I repeat again and again and again. And I repeat so many times that this image feels like it's become a part of me. I'm really not looking at the reference image anymore. I'm just drawing a drawing of the drawing I've done before. So there's just this transformation that happens. Instead of drawing from an image, now I'm drawing from my previous drawing, and it becomes a bit more stylistic. And then from there, I'll get my canvases ready. So after I stretch and gesso my canvases, I'll put a ground down. I use a burnt sienna. Historically, it's what a lot of artists have used. It's an earth tone. And the bonus with burnt sienna is that I'm painting a lot of not seascapes, but lakescapes, and there's a lot of blue and turquoises and greens, so it's complementary with this burnt sienna. And I really enjoy the moments in the painting where that background color, the ground, is peeking through. Particularly areas where you see that turquoisey water and the burnt sienna behind, they're complementaries, and so it has this kind of intensity in those the passages, which I really love. After I put this ground down, I'll sketch out my image. I use a pretty dark mixture of burnt umber and ultramarine to sketch out my image. At this point, I'm looking at my sketches, I'm looking at reference image, and I'm also just trying to be as loose as possible. I'm using acrylic paints here, and I never sketch with pencil. I never try to make something exact. My intention is to replicate that feeling of comfort and ease when I'm outside. And if I can have that same comfort and ease in the studio, then I feel like the paintings have a more relaxed gesture that I hope people respond to. Then it's time to mix my paints. I generally mix all of my paints at once for a single painting. I'm really into color theory. I actually teach color theory at some schools, and I'm a big nerd about it. So I have a lot of fun looking through books, getting ideas for new color combinations, and combining those new ideas for color combinations with what I'm experiencing in the landscape. So it's this really fine balance between the local color, what a color actually is, and what colors I want to imbue into my painting. I'll mix up my entire palette, and then I'll mix a gray so I can tone my colors and create different values. And then I'll start painting. I normally have 5 brushes in between all of my fingers. I try to paint quite quickly because I feel like the gesture feels more sincere when I do that. Because acrylic dries so quickly, it can be really frustrating to a lot of artists, but I actually love using acrylic because you can layer so easily. A lot of artists who use acrylic will shift to working in layers and using a lot of medium. So I'll use a glazing medium or a matte gel medium, and this adds transparency to the paint. It also changes the consistency slightly, and with that I can start layering so you see something underneath peeking through a bit more. And I just work with the fact that it dries quickly. The reason why I would use lots of brushes is if there's a moment where I want those edges to be more blurred, to think more about movement, then I would have to work very quickly to get those colors mixed on the canvas before it dries. Even though someone might not have been to these places, I would like them to look at the painting and say, yeah, I could be there, and there is a certain amount of a story that's happening. All of my paintings are titled based on, actually, this is real, I should have said this earlier, this is so neat. There's an old historic book about the township I live in called Athol Township. And there's all these stories about people living along the shoreline, limestone ledges, and different things that happened, fishing hauls for the day, shipwrecks that occurred, all of these things from the early 1800s. And all of the titles from my paintings are taken from that book, little snippets of different journals and things that have happened. What drives my work is really curiosity. And so that drives the desire to create, and it also drives the process of creation is, oh, what would happen if I did this mark or added this color? It's curiosity. If someone looks at my painting, I would want them to experience that same sensation. I would want them to look at it and say, what? Why? What's that passage doing there? And, you know, have it on their wall, and then a month later realize something that they didn't before, see some, you know, fleck of color that didn't exist before, and to stay curious in that way, and to stay in that place of noticing and being present.